Baki, and the Sand siblings made their way toward the Hokage Tower. While the three younger ninja were not accustomed to war preparation, they all found it odd how relaxed the Konoha ninja seemed, as if they hadn't a care in the world. Once they arrived in the tower, the squad was granted immediate access to the Hokage. The man's visage was vastly different from that of his ninja. He seemed deeply concerned about something. They all gave a respectful bow to the Hokage, and he nodded in return. "I thank you for being here. I have much to discuss, and not all of it will be easy." Hiruzen started. 3 days ago the leader of the Akatsuki attacked 2 of my shinobi, Orochimaru of the Sannin and Uzumaki Naruto. I was warned beforehand of the attack by the leader's second in command. She planned to betray the leader for her own reasons and wished to form a non-aggression treaty with Konoha. The double-crossed work. For all intents and purposes, the Akatsuki is no more and our invasion is no longer necessary. The new leader of AIM informed me that the former head, one called Pain, sent 2 of the remaining Akatsuki members on a mission and did not give her any details. Just yesterday, I received information on what that secret mission was. There is no correct way to say this, but those 2 Akatsuki, Haiden and Kakuzu, were sent to Suna and killed the Kazekage. I am sorry for your loss. None of the ninja present had an outward reaction, which didn't surprise Hiruzen. They were well trained, and in front of a foreign leader, they wouldn't show any signs of weakness in front of him. After a moment to gather his thoughts, Baki spoke. Did they know in which direction they were headed, Hokage-sama? Yes, toward the land of rivers, but they weren't tracked beyond your borders. Baki nodded. I'll inform the forces here, and they'll head back immediately. May I make a request? If it is within my power, Baki-san. I would request a team to back us up. One of Razasama's mistakes was not doggedly pursuing Sasori when he was suspected of killing the Sandaime. I won't repeat that mistake. His murders will be brought to justice. Are you thinking a tracker squad? Yes, possibly one familiar with our targets and containing a heavy hitter to match our own. Hiruzen nodded and flared his chakra. An ANBU in a boar mask appeared. Summon Team Kurine for me. I need you 3 to step out, Baki said to his students, and they complied. Now alone, he had some information he needed to share with the Hokage. Hokage-sama, there is something you need to know concerning one of your shinobi, one Uzumaki Naruto. And what would that be, Baki-san? Razasama knew of his parents' identities and planned to use that in the renegotiation of our alliance. If something were to happen to him, he arranged for the information to be sent to Kumo, Kiri, and IWA. I knew only of his general plans, but not where he stored the information nor who he would use to deliver it. That fool. Hiruzen thought, filled with the desire to kill the Kazekage. It would be difficult to plan for their reactions. Anoki and I could simply not care or use it as a pretext to act against Konoha. The Sand siblings re-entered with Team Kurenai and Hiruzen informed them of the mission. It was dangerous, but he believed them capable of it, having been so thoroughly prepared to fight the Akatsuki. They left and Hiruzen once again summoned an ANBU agent. Hare, retrieve the Elder Council. Actually, Hokage-sama, they are awaiting your arrival in the large conference room along with the clan heads and the Sannin. Hiruzen dismissed the agent and made his way to the room, wondering what this meeting could be about. Upon entrance, Hiruzen saw a collection of hard looks aimed at him, though Hamura and Koharu simply looked sad. He simply couldn't deduce what this could be about. Thank you for joining us, Hokage-sama, Hayashi spoke as the Sandaime took his seat. I requested this meeting today to discuss what I believe to be an alarming trend, namely your treatment of the Uzumaki clan. Throughout your reign, several of your decisions have cost the Uzumaki greatly. The refusal to render aid promptly when they had been a long-time ally of the Senju, and Konoha, being the clearest example. Then there was the decision to wear their crest, but to not teach about the Uzumaki in our academy. Simply allowing subsequent generations to believe it is a Konoha symbol of pride instead of the mark of dishonor it was meant to be. Finally, we have Uzumaki Naruto. Not only did you ignore the law passed down by previous daimyo, you embezzled funds from a clan account he denied the sole heir access to, instead of requiring he live on public assistance. You denied him his heritage. You denied him a fair path to promotions and success. You allowed your friend to also steal and reveal Naruto-san's identity as a Jinchuriki. Finally, you intended to have a Konoha kunoichi seduce Naruto-san and potentially become the matriarch of the Uzumaki clan, one that was indebted to you. These violations against the Uzumaki, against the notions of clan autonomy, and against the daimyo have led me to one conclusion. I, Hyuga Hayashi, as clan head of the Hyuga clan have lost faith and confidence in your leadership of the village and request you stand down immediately. I understand this declaration has no legal authority and is purely symbolic, but I press on knowingly. Hiruzen felt like he'd been slapped in the face. He could see Orochimaru smirking at the corner of his eye and realized this was retaliation for the Akatsuki assault. He thought about to his sensei's words, how her past and future sins didn't resolve him of his. He couldn't be absolved by condemning her. Hiruzen couldn't deny the wisdom but couldn't accept it entirely, either. Tobirama-sensei didn't know her, how black her soul truly was. No compassion, no empathy, and a willingness to do anything to achieve her goals. He felt if he were the only sane man on an island with lunatics. Do the rest of you feel this way? The clan leaders nodded. They looked disappointed but somehow sorry to be doing this. Hiruzen knew what he had to do, no attempts to justify his actions would change what those actions were, nor the reality that he'd played into her hands once again. Trying to focus on everything meant some things had to slip, he couldn't discover her plans while still being the village leader. He had to accept the momentary defeat. Then, as my final act, as Hokage, I name Senju Tsunade my successor and the Godame Hokage. I will not deny the actions listed by Hayashi, but it was never motivated by a bias toward the Uzumaki, especially not Naruto. However, intention doesn't always matter, and I have wronged that young man time and time again. It has been my sincerest honor to serve as your Hokage. I tender my resignation, effective immediately. Hiruzen vacated the room, 2 of his students and the elder council following close behind. The clan leaders also departed, leaving only Hayashi and Orochimaru left. This makes us even, Hayashi stated, disgusted with having dragged the Sandaime through the mud. Kukuku, fix your face, Hayashi-kun. Nothing you claimed was a lie. So, you added an alternative interpretation, isn't that a small price to pay for your nephew's career? Hayashi didn't respond, choosing to walk away. There was no pride in what he'd done, but it was the least painful way to get out of debt with the snake Sannin. It was safer for his clan to be free of her. It offered him little comfort, no matter how many times he repeated the justification. In the Hokage's office, Hiruzen sat at his desk for the last time. He didn't have time to muse on the bittersweet experience or get lost in a fog of memories. Tsunade needed to know exactly what she was inheriting so she could be prepared and lead her people. Tsunade, there has been a development, one I had planned on telling you before that farce took place. The Kazekage had information ready to send to Kiri, Kumo, and Iwa should he die unexpectedly. It contains Naruto's heritage and who knows what else. His former second, Baki, informed me before he left with Team Kurenai. As 3 of those in attendance were focused on Hiruzen, and Hiruzen on Tsunade, none saw Jiraiya tense for the briefest of moments. He had not known that Kazekage was dead, his sensei leaving him out of that little reveal. Who killed Raza, sensei? Jiraiya asked. Kakuzu and Haiden. It was Nagato's final act. We need to start preparing. Hamura cautioned. Preparing how and for what? We can't possibly believe Iwa will mobilize, because Minato has a living son. Koharu observed. We have to assume both, if for nothing else than a pretense, especially Kumo. They were the most reluctant to demobilize, and in all likelihood they haven't. Hiruzen said. Then why haven't they attacked? Tsunade questioned. After the Kyuubi attack, it would have been ideal. I may be old but I still have enough kick to put I in his place should the need arise, Hiruzen answered. It's fortunate we've been training for an invasion. We'll just have to keep our ninja working hard. Tsunade observed. Harder, especially any young high-value targets. Guys, Asuma's, Kakashi's teams will attract special attention. And of course, Team Kurenai, stated Koharu. How long do we have to prepare? Tsunade asked. Can't know. We should consider ourselves in a cold war with Kumo and Iwa. It would be wise to warn our forces of increased skirmishes. I will want time to truly ramp up, but a single incident can spark open hostilities. Oinoki might be moved to initiate an all-out war, but it'd still take time unless the hatred for Minato simply overwhelms his shinobi. Hiruzen answered. I'm still taking the kid on a training trip. Kumo won't want to waste the amount of ninja they'd need to send to kill us both, and I'll stay far away from Land of Earth. Then you're going to need to be serious, Jiraiya. Jiraiya bristled at the jab. We've been over this, sensei. You led me to believe I shouldn't train him harder during the Chunin exams, you sent me out in the field as we were preparing for AIM and you gave him to Orochimaru as a student. I'll make sure he can face whatever anyone can throw at him and I would have if I'd been allowed to carry out my responsibilities. This isn't the time, dash. This is the perfect time. Why were Orochimaru and Naruto facing Nagato alone? It doesn't take a genius to figure it out, you were hoping she'd be killed and banking on them meeting Naruto alive. But he could have been maimed or injured in some other way that ended his career. Or, Nagato could have killed him. All because of your obsession, and look what it got you. How did Hayashi even know about a mission you never officially assigned? Jiraiya, you aren't wrong, but this isn't the time. We have an advantage, Ai is predictable, and we won't be taken by surprise. Your issues with Hiruzen must wait, stated Koharu. Jiraiya simply huffed in response. Speaking of Orochimaru, we need a Danzo, Tsunade observed. You want to give her leeway to perform off-the-book operations? We already have Oto, sensei. Seems like a good use, and given they hadn't caught your attention until Orochi wanted them to, I think they are up for this. Besides, I wasn't asking permission, and while I agree with Koharu, we'll also be having words about that stunt you pulled. The smoke from the summoning jutsu cleared to show a full-grown panther in its wake. She looked on guard, ready to strike should the situation call for it. Quickly surveying the area, she sees there is no immediate danger as her summoner appears relaxed. Naruto. She greeted. Okoye-chan. He greeted back. I assume you didn't summon me for a social visit, so what can I do for you today? Do you remember that information I gave to you and the others about the Akatsuki? The panther nodded. Well, 2 of them killed the Kazekage, Kakuzu, and Haiden. They were last seen headed to the Land of Rivers. Then you need a hunting party? Yes, but only to find them, do not engage. The panther didn't seem enthused about that. Naruto, surely you don't think 2 shinobi would be too powerful for the elite of our kind? No, I do not. This isn't my mission. My team is aiding Suna. That placated the warrior summons as her scowl melted away. I will have the entire Dora Milaje search for them and report back, but you better have some proper work for us soon, Naruto. The girls are getting bored. Oh, and I'm bringing Majila. Before Naruto could offer a word of protest, Okoye was gone. I see you run a tight ship with your summons, Temari said sarcastically. More importantly, at least we have trackers in the field. We should head toward the Land of Rivers anyway, they may still be there, spoke Baki. He'd sent the rest of the Suna shinobi back home, many crestfallen that another of their Kage had been killed. Not many liked Raza, but he was their leader. They were confident he'd be avenged as Gaara was considered the most powerful ninja they had, excluding Raza, and Baki was a very elite shinobi as well. Both teams departed soon after that, only stopping now to exchange information and begin forming a strategy. Baki was impressed with how much information Team Kurenai had on the 2 missing ninja and some of the preliminary strategies the Nara had produced taking into account all of their skills. Having just learned about Baki's in the information exchange, the Suna Jounin felt confident they could succeed in their plans, but he wouldn't get cocky. He wouldn't consider it successful unless all of his students were able to return home. It was hard not to feel smug as she darted through the forest of death, confident she was the most lethal being in the infamous training ground. The snake Sannin, after having Hiruzen shamed and humiliated, was on to her next target. There was no guarantee that things would go as she desired, but she had little to lose in the attempt. Up ahead she heard sounds of swift movement and kunai penetrating trees. Orochimaru shunted the rest of the distance and stood atop a nearby tree. Anko was instantly alerted to the arrival of a new presence, one she'd been seeing more and more of after the removal of her cursed seal. Anko didn't know what to make of Orochimaru's behavior. The woman had been supplying her with new jutsu, even allowing greater access to the snake summoning clan. All of this was made the more confusing by Anko's own emotions stemming from her returned memories. She didn't viscerally hate her sensei like she once did, though some hate was still there, it had settled into a reluctant ambivalence. Anko simply looked at Orochimaru, knowing the woman would explain herself without prompting. I want you to finish your training under me, Orochimaru stated, flatly. Wow, no foreplay, just shove it right in. Anko retorted, mostly to hide her shock. And here I was led to believe you like it rough. You might want new sources, or assign the ones you have better targets. I can't imagine my sex life holds much interest to you. Tisk, TSK, Anko-chan. You know my curiosity is boundless, very little falls out of its scope. Yeah. Sure. What are you playing at? I think you can be better than what you are, and part of the reason you haven't reached your full potential is due to me. I want to rectify that. And what do you believe my upper limits are? Anko couldn't deny the offer was enticing. She'd improved since her sensei left her, but it had been more incremental than the leaps she'd experienced when being trained by the Sannin. Being able to grow even more wasn't an offer she could simply ignore, not in her line of work. It's hard to project, Anko-chan, but I believe you can become an S-rank ninja by the time we're finished. Any ninja would be enticed by the chance to become S-rank, but Anko wasn't sure that was true if Orochimaru would be training multiple students. What about your current student? His apprenticeship has all but ended, Jiraiya will be taking over his training. What makes this brat so special? 2 of the Sannin want to train him. You're a ninja, figure it out. Or be more concerned with yourself. Are you in, Anko-chan? Yeah, fine. But no experiments. Kukuku, we'll see. The rhythmic thuds of a striking post being hitting it was welcomed Hayashi to his destination. He felt unclean and unsettled with what he did to the sandame, but his actions could not be taken back. Now, he was onto a new but adjacent bit of business, and he was not looking forward to the outcome. He convinced himself this was for the clan and her protection, but he doubted Hinata would see it that way. He stopped a few dozen feet from her, watching her train. Smooth and powerful strikes landing with precision, her utilizing a skill many didn't believe she had. It was hard not to get lost in the arguments of old, accusations about her perverting tradition due to a lack of talent. She'd been called shameful and a disgrace because no one could see her, and her general aloof manner didn't improve her standing. That she didn't care only hurt her more. Father. She said evenly, but never taking her eyes off the training post. There was a time he would have bristled at the greeting, lacking both warmth and the respect of ceremony. It wasn't informal, it wasn't formal, just an acknowledgement he existed in her proximity. Daughter, we need to speak. His declaration resulted in Hinata turning toward him and closing the distance, in no great rush to do so. Once she was closer, Hayashi began, I will be brief. You are to no longer associate with the Uzumaki. Hinata looked at him for several seconds before turning around and heading back to the training post. Hinata, I am serious, Hayashi said, sternly. His daughter didn't even turn around. I do not doubt you are, I simply do not care. Hinata, I have tolerated your ways, that did make her turn around. You have tolerated? Tolerated? And what great deeds have I done to be bestowed your most divine tolerance, Honorable Hyuga Hayashi-sama? How have I pleased the gods to be shown this most humbling favor? This is no time for petulance. Hayashi bit back, hating her backtalk. You've seemingly made time for some. Really, father, ordering me away from 3 whole people like they'll bind my soul. Are the Hyuga really scared of 3 teenagers? I fear their connections, each of them tied to Orochimaru. That is cause for concern, and I do not want you mixed up with it or with them. You mean the woman you placed the entirety of the Hyuga in debt with to save Niji's shinobi career? Maybe my feminine brain simply can't process the distinction or the logic therein. That was necessary and beneficial to the clan. Yes, empowering the boy that wants both your daughters dead is truly a great benefit to the clan. If only I were born with the penis needed to lead and the bravery to never question tradition. Hayashi had to immediate counter to that. He knew of Niji's hatred for the main branch, of his genius being limited or under-awarded. He also remembered how Hinata's interests and skill set were written off as the fancy of a girl, just something whimsical a princess would indulge in. He rarely defended her, his own frustration being voiced by others. It was shameful and cowardly, it had also broken something between them. That she was normally compared, negatively. To Niji only cemented in her mind this wasn't entirely about her abilities, but the reality that for the first time a kunoichi would be the head of the Hyuga, and many didn't like that. I have made mistakes, but what I seek to do, I do for the clan. Hayashi felt a wave of killing intent wash over him. It wasn't anything he couldn't shake off, but it was enough to be noticed. He saw Hinata, shaking with her Byakugan activated. Clan, I hate that word. Always for the clan. Exist for the clan, kill for the clan, change for the clan, train for the clan. Be a slave for the clan. Show no emotion for the clan. I detest that word. You speak of the clan, but have no idea know what you mean by it. You ask all to sacrifice for the clan, but are they not the clan? Those you made servants, were they not the clan? But maybe you are right to lose sight of the people. I haven't, and most of them disgust me. So arrogant, so proud, yet have accomplished nothing. They live off the glory of others, and feel entitled to do so, because they are part of the clan. It offends me, you all do, more than you'll ever know. Hinata stopped her rant, feeling herself slip. It wouldn't benefit herself to lose control. As fast as the mask of indifference slipped, it was back on and her scowl gone. Who I associate with is not your concern, father. Was all she said before performing a shunshin. Hinata stopped just shy of her destination and ran the rest of the way. She doubted her goal had much chance to succeed, but she had to try. She knocked on the door, not at all surprised when the snake Sannin answered it herself. Orochimaru took a look at the young Hyuga and could tell something was not right, and while she knew Hinata would never come to her for comfort, that was no reason to turn her away. She ushered the girl into her home, having her take a seat in the living room. What can I do for you, Hinata-chan? I want to alter our deal, Hinata spoke. Oh, and what change would you like to make? I want you to let him go. Him? Orochimaru asked, but knew who the girl was referencing. Naruto-kun. I want you to let him go. No. I told you that silly little crush of yours would never go anywhere, could never go anywhere. Why do you think that's changed? Because you want it to? I don't want you to do it for me. But for him. He deserves something honest, something real. Not more lies and manipulation. I haven't lied to him. But you are manipulating him. He doesn't know you've had him watched by multiple people for years. He doesn't know that his so-called family is more loyal to you than they'll ever be to him. He doesn't know you'd never give him a choice, he has to be with you. He's smarter than you think. He knows I've tracked his progress and knows I've had agents within the village. He doesn't know about you specifically, but you can tell him if you wish. As far as Tayuya and Karen, they may be more loyal to me, but in the future, that won't really be an issue. Our interests will be one and the same. As far as having no choice, do you believe I've had one of my snakes mesmerize him? Did I give him an enchanted apple? Cuckoo. Hinata frowned. She certainly hadn't come here to be entertainment. But she should have realized this was futile. Maybe she did know, and that's why she was here. To remind herself of what she'd agreed to, what she'd done. However, you do have a point. I am not allowing him a choice. If my softer, more subtle methods don't work, I have other ways. Nothing he'd dislike, mind you, but I fail to see why this matters to you. He's good. He could be hateful and lash out at people. He could refuse to help others as so few helped him, but he's not like that. He's open and warm, willing to make a friend of anyone that puts forth the smallest effort. He's my friend and he deserves something good in his life. Something real. And that isn't me? Hinata only looked at Orochimaru, refusing to answer. It is only because you meant well that I won't take offense to this. But this is not your concern and there is no sense in fighting the inevitable. You, however, will still get what I promised you. On what condition? I would think it quite obvious, Hinata-chan. Don't cross me, and don't get in my way. Having said her piece and seeing it come to the result she expected, Hinata saw herself out. It wasn't 5 minutes later that another knock on the door was heard. Orochimaru once again answered it, not surprised, but also not happy to see it was Jiraiya looking deeply concerned. Are you okay? Shikamaru asked. The picturesque night sky was alight with stars. If not for what the next day promised, he'd love nothing more than to gaze upon them. But that wasn't to be, and there was something more important to attend to now. I don't know how to answer that. We're going to attack to S-rank, allegedly unkillable shinobi tomorrow in revenge for a man that treated his children like tools. Well, the lucky ones. Gaara, he just emotionally tortured until he snapped. Yet, we still march off to face his killers. Am I supposed to be okay with that? Fair point. He said as he took a seat beside Temari. Sorry, I didn't mean to unload on you. This is just a lot, and I'm not sure my father is worth putting my brothers at risk. Shikamaru said nothing, he truly didn't know how to respond. He might find them troublesome, but he's always had the support of his parents. He wasn't naive and knew awful things went on, but simply couldn't connect to the experience in any real way. Instead of words, he simply reached for her hand, never taking his eyes off the sky. I can't honestly say I relate, Shikamaru started after a period of silence, and I don't want to spout cliches, it'd be too troublesome. I'm an only child and very few of my clansmen are around my age. So, really, I just had my best friend Shuji when I was growing up until I got my genin teammates. You three seem close. We weren't always. Shino can be a little stiff, some say I'm lazy dash. You are dash. I prefer to call it dedicated efficiency. And Naruto. He was in 12 kinds of pain and didn't know where to put it all. It took us a couple of months to gel, for Shino to believe we wouldn't shun him and for Naruto to get a handle on his survivor's guilt and open up. What about you? I was to engage as well. Once we got on the same wavelength, we were a really good team. I even started to not mind the effort, willingly doing things I used to work very hard to get out of. You likely won't resolve how you feel about your father tonight, but if you need a reason to go through with this, to give it your all, then do it for your brothers and leave the rest for later. And here, I thought you were the dumb one, Temari said with a laugh. That'd hurt if you didn't have to live with the knowledge, the only time you've beaten me is because I let you win. Her laughter stopped and a scowl found its way to her face. Temari left back to her tent muttering about rematches and revenge against Lazyas's. Shikamaru could only think about how troublesome it'd all be and also, paradoxically, how little he'd mind it. The next day, the two teams watched their targets as they traversed a wooded area. A clearing approached and Baki gave the signal this would be where they attacked. Shikamaru tossed a kunai with an explosive tag toward the former Akatsuki, the explosion separating them, but both were unscathed. I'd wondered when you were going to attack, you've been trailing us for 2 days, observed Kakuzu. What, they've been following us for that long and you didn't say anything? What the fuck? It doesn't matter, I'm going to sacrifice them to Jashin-sama. Haiden, shut up. Besides, 2 of them are Jinchuriki and we can't be killed. Then I get the rest of them. No, the tall Suna ninja has a bounty. Isn't that right, Baki? The elite Jounin said nothing in response. This is bullshit. Just take the Konoha ninja, and remember they are the ones that killed Sasori and Deidara, so try not die a stupid death. Fuck you, blasphemer, Haiden yelled as he recklessly charged toward the Konoha team, the squad deciding to take off into the trees. It was an obvious tactic to separate the 2 ninja. Haiden simply didn't care when he had a trio of new sacrifices and a Jinchuriki to torture. Kakuzu didn't care he was alone, not fearing the ninja that stood before him. He decided it would be best to neutralize the most dangerous opponent first, before picking off the other 3. In a burst of speed, too fast for Temari and Kankuro to track, and apparently too fast for Baki to react to Kakuzu was in front of Gaara. He aimed a punch directly toward the sand user's heart, hitting him squarely, his speed allowing him to bypass Gaara's automatic defense. Kakuzu was surprised when the Jinchuriki dissolved, and even more so when he had a seal on his body. The other Suna ninja had created a lot of space, that and the faint glow of the seal was his warning of what was to come. A high-powered explosion went off, creating a dust cloud around the missing ninja. None were content with assuming the blast had been enough. Now dropping the false surrounding jutsu on Gaara and himself, Naruto blurred through hand signs while Temari completely opened her fan, giving it a powerful swing. Wind style, Great Sickle Weasel Jutsu met fire style, Sea of Flames creating a fantastic firestorm, setting much of the targeted area on fire. Kakuzu appeared atop an undamaged tree. He wouldn't announce it, but that trick took out 2 of his hearts, as they hadn't managed to get out of his body. The combination jutsu hadn't done any damage as he got his earth-style armor up before it hit. He was left with Doton, Katon, and Raitun. If need be, he knew he could simply take the hearts of the fools challenging him now. The squad of Suna ninja and Naruto spotted Kakuzu's location and braced themselves. They understood that while the trick may have done some damage, the real fight was about to begin. Without a moment's hesitation, Kakuzu charged and Baki opted to meet the unspoken challenge. Haiden's frustrating level was increasing at an exponential rate. Despite being faster, stronger, better than the non-believing filth he was chasing, he couldn't close the distance and couldn't land a strike. His aim was always just a little off. If not that, he had to get out of a trap or power through an explosion. It was infuriating. He just wanted to kill them a little. Why did they make it so hard? He'd make it extra painful for the aggravation they'd caused him. The Jashinist touched the ground for the briefest of moments and felt unable to move. Then he saw 2 flashes. He screamed bloody murder when he realized his torso had been severed at the waist and his head had been as well. The woman and the red-haired one he wasn't supposed to kill stood over him, ignoring his curses and promises of infinite pain. The red-haired one picked his head up, placed it on a scroll. Haiden's last words were cut off as his head was sealed in a storage scroll. Naruto sealed the rest of the body in different scrolls, planning to keep the head long enough to cash in the bounty and then disposing of it, or giving it to Orochimaru Shursho. Kurenai wiped away a bit of sweat from her forehead. Using such subtle genjutsu on the move was tricky, and the concentration required caused some strain. But it ultimately worked out, and now Team Kurenai headed back toward Team Baki, ready to wrap this mission up. Naruto's report that his clone had been dispelled made them move all the faster. Kakuzu's current emotional state mimicked that of his partner's. Things had been going well. He got the better of the midair exchange with Baki, even maneuvering the Suna ninja into a piledriver. It should have been lethal, but it only knocked Baki out as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki somehow softened the blow with some bouncy water jutsu, but Kakuzu didn't have much time to contemplate it as he had to dodge the onslaught of sand aimed at him. It wasn't a problem, the attacks were much too slow, but the fan user and the puppeteer were being annoying. He detached 2 of his remaining hearts, allowing them to act independently. The Fire Nature Mask and the Lightning Nature Mask targeted Temari, causing Gaara to erect a defensive barrier. It held but not without a good deal of effort as the lightning chakra nearly pierced it. Kakuzu dashed toward Kankuro, bypassing Ant and Crow and pummeling the boy. Kakuzu disengaged to avoid a sword swipe, but the blade was infused with wind nature chakra and still severed a hand. Kakuzu jumped over a wind blade and began to fight once more. Gaara had since gone on the attack, but the two masked creatures were proving nimble enough to avoid his assaults, even his sand spears. Temari was able to negate the lightning attacks, but it was taking a toll on her chakra reserves. They were losing the battle of attrition, and there was no guarantee when Team Kurenai would return. Arg! Baki cried out as he was pierced in his extremities by Kakuzu's threads. The missing ninja was about to take his heart, but Naruto cut Baki free, moving at his maximum, non-Kyuubi chakra-enabled speed. He then shunshined away. Kakuzu called his masks back, planning to wrap this up. The fire mask was diverted by Naruto's water lance right into Gaara's sand coffin, finishing it off with a sand funeral. The lightning mask made it back to Kakuzu just as he sent his remaining attached hand underground. It came up behind Temari, grabbing her by the ankle and breaking it, causing her to let out a scream. He thought he'd fended off Naruto's approach, but the Uzumaki's utilization of his supersonic chakra-imbued sword made quick work of it, allowing him to reach and stab Kakuzu in the back. Naruto placed a hand on Kakuzu's back as he attempted to pull the blade out, but the now angered immortal retrieved the Jinchuriki with his threads and stabbed Naruto in a non-vital area, causing him to disperse. This only increased Kakuzu's anger as he'd wasted time holding back against a clone. He was ready to beat the remaining Jinchuriki into submission, but he suddenly felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. The gravity seal the shadow clone placed on Kakuzu had finished calibrating and activated, immobilizing the former Taki ninja. He was nearing collapse due to the great weight, but couldn't pay much attention to that as the layers of sand surrounding him were of greater concern. To make matters worse, every ounce of his chakra was being used to buttress his muscles so he wouldn't be crushed, and he couldn't mold it externally. He couldn't believe his end was going to come at the hands of children. He, a ninja that had dueled Hashirama Senju and survived. He didn't have long to contemplate the injustice of it all as Gaara performed his sand waterfall funeral, crushing the remaining hearts of Kakuzu, ending the life of the longtime ninja. Team Kurenai arrived shortly after and helped patch up Team Baki. None were trained medics but knew enough first aid to hold them over until they got to a friendly medic, though Baki and Temari had to be carried. Fortunately, two of Naruto's larger summons were willing to aid in that task, and the teams traveled to an outpost on the Land of Fire border where they could receive real medical attention. The two teams stayed there for only a few days, just until Baki was well enough to travel as Temari's ankle would take a little longer to heal. Each team said their goodbyes, though Shino and Naruto noticed Shikamaru paid a little more attention to Temari. Neither was shy in pointing it out, much to the annoyance of the Nara heir. It took them 2 days to arrive back to Konoha, none knowing the challenges that lie in the near future. Darui read through the files Isama handed him, some confirmed details and a lot of conjecture about a specific Chunin, one Uzumaki Naruto. If even half of what the elite Jounin read were true, the boy would be a monster when he fully matured. Darui had no issues admitting as much, even if a mere boy mastering all 5 nature releases seemed highly doubtful without the aid of a Kekii Genkai. But, once again, if even half of this were true now, the boy was every bit the prodigy his father had been, assuming Minato Namikaze was his father. A potential S-class shinobi, or the identity of a Jinchuriki, were always things to be on the lookout for. Darui wouldn't deny this was valuable information, if true. However, Isama was going to completely overreact, given the information. Where Darui saw a child with a good deal of potential, Isama saw the justification to follow his greatest ambition. An ambition with real costs, and what would be the justification? Konoha prepping a superweapon with a grudge against Kumo? Even if the kid did hate Kumo, not that Darui would blame him, that wasn't Konoha's way. Isama managed to convince much of the forces it was Konoha that attempted a double-cross during the Hyuga incident, but there were enough senior ninja to know that was a lie. Those that did felt a great deal of shame. Yes, a ninja does what they can to better their village and complete their mission, but kidnapping a little girl under the banner of peace went beyond dishonorable. If you have no standards, you're little better than animals, and Darui believed there had to be some lines you wouldn't cross just for power. Say what you want to say, Darui, I demanded, and his number 2 frowned in response. There is still time to call this off, Isama. Why would I want to? I asked, but didn't wait for a reply. Before the hidden villages, my clan went where they pleased, conquered people, and took lands. We were never meant to be holed up on some mountain. Hashirama and Madara changed the game, both too powerful to be opposed. We had to unite with others, just to keep up. Tobirama, not as powerful, but more intelligent and ruthless. Truly we were never as strong as we were then. How much of the Kinkaku force did we lose to him? And who was his replacement? Sarutobi Hiruzen, the god of shinobi. Only to follow up with Minato dash. Whom you respected. I did respect him and acknowledged his abilities. Just like my father and the others did for the other Hokage. We've had to stifle ourselves, because of it, because of them. But now, there is a short window. They are lulled by peace and won't protect their next generation as they should. We can cripple them and finally be the rolling storm we were always meant to be, I said, reveling in a sense of destiny. His chance to finally surpass his father by making Kumo greater than it ever had been. And lose a lot of good people to the cause. We have more than enough now and are under no threat from anyone, Darui pointed out. It's not good enough. Konoha has gotten to define the modern shinobi age for too long, it's time that stopped. Kumo will be the uncontested best and we will prove it. Darui said nothing in response, reasoning there was no point. I, the Jounin thought, had a false sense of destiny. He wanted to, again, go to war with Konoha, for no reason and very little reward. The total destruction of a major hidden village hadn't happened yet for a reason and Konoha hadn't lost a war yet for a reason. Darui would fulfill his duties and tried to guide those under his command to the best of his abilities, but he wished I would reconsider. The Sandaime had mellowed as he aged, seeing the value of a strong and secure Kumo. The man didn't dream of conquest, of triumph, but the periods of peace they enjoyed. I ignored that, focusing on who his father was as a much younger man. It wasn't for Kumo. I was treating Kumo as if it existed for him, not as if he existed for Kumo, but the power of self-delusion had convinced him otherwise. Darui would perform his duties and protect his comrades as Kumo was more than its Kage and his childish whims. Inoki read over the file once more. Truly, he didn't care. It was a single boy from the most peaceful major village. He'd be more than happy to ignore his existence, and if his shinobi should find out about the boy he'd order them to do the same. IWA may hate the yellow flash, but they had no time for a pointless grudge. It was war, the blonde bastard only did what he should have. The problem, Inoki thought, was Kumo. He knew unruly I. The only leader that didn't demilitarize after the last war, one of the reasons Inoki used the Akatsuki. It wasn't easy to ignore the organization was housing a traitor to him and his village, but they were useful for the most difficult jobs his forces weren't prepared for yet. I would likely see this as an opportunity. The man was predictable and that it hadn't gotten him killed was a testament to his power and Kumo's might. IWA and Kumo could only ally because Konoha separated them, if not for that Inoki knows I would see him as a threat and target. The question became, could he use this to benefit IWA? He didn't need personal glory, he'd earned enough throughout his life, but he couldn't avoid considering beneficial options. It was rarely easy, but war did offer opportunities if you were keen enough to see them. More importantly, the threat of war offered untold opportunities. Maybe it was time to form some new alliances. Inoki couldn't make the first move, of course. Konoha and Suna would have to come to him. His ninja wouldn't like it, their pride still damaged after the last war. Inoki could understand this, but pride was like anything else to a shinobi, to be useful until it wasn't and then ruthlessly discarded. A soft alliance with Suna and Konoha could be profitable. It would stop Ai in his tracks. It would also give Inoki time to train Kuratsuchi and plan his exit. His old bones had gotten used to peace. But it was a luxury, and if war presented the better option for IWA, then he would take it. That was his duty, his burden. His most loyal ANBU kneeled beside his desk. He must have been confused, but he hid it excellently. Itachi truly was one of the best shinobi Konoha had ever produced. It was a source of both pride and shame for Hiruzen. Itachi could have been the first Uchiha Hokage if not for so many things, so many decisions. If only he'd been more resolute when dealing with Danzo, if only he hadn't allowed the Uchiha to isolate themselves. If only. Nothing could change what happened, it was as trite an observation as it was true, but since his resignation, Hiruzen had so much more time think. No, not think, process. To come to terms with the totality of his second reign as Hokage. Failure would be his assessment. The Uchiha, Hisashi, Hyuga, Orochimaru, and Naruto. He'd strained his relationship with Kakashi, another potential Hokage that Hiruzen failed to nurture. He'd fractured his relationship with Jiraiya, if not for, unintentionally, instilling the need for his approval. Hiruzen knows Jiraiya would have cut off all contact or flaunted his orders. So many wrong choices, or, worst yet, situations he convinced himself he had no choice at all. Tobirama had been merciless in his brief talk and Hiruzen could see the disappointment in the man's eyes. Hiruzen shook himself from his internal musings so he could receive Itachi's final report. Speak, Itachi-kun. Sandame-sama, as ordered, I tracked down where that large contingent of Oto shinobi traveled to, Itachi started. Hiruzen made sure to have people in Oto that could report their movements, and when he received word that dozens were being ordered to the same location he knew his student was up to something. On arrival, I found dozens of Oto ninja dead from various wounds. From the looks of the battle, it appeared they faced only one person. I noticed what appeared to be the remnants of noxious gases being emitted by the corpses. I continued my investigation of the mountain's graveyard and came to several conclusions upon finishing my search. And what are they? I believe the location to be a base for the one that called himself Madara, the man that recruited me and killed most of the Uchiha. I believe Orochimaru somehow discovered his base and ordered an assault. I further believe she knew enough of his abilities to know those ninja were marching toward their deaths and she had them ingest a toxin of some kind that would be released should they suffer a flesh wound. As the alleged Madara was not there, I do not know if his body was disposed of or if she has it somewhere. So, she may have a fully functional Sharingan? It is possible, yes. This isn't good, Hiruzen whispered. He wasn't one to panic, but this was a worst-case scenario if there ever was one. With due respect, Sandame-sama, I disagree. Madara was both ruthless and powerful. He never left me with an opportunity to kill him or I would have. If Orochimaru has managed to subdue or eliminate him, then that is for the better. Maybe so, Itachi-kun, but we do not know her motivation. Her with a Sharingan. I fear what she could do with such an ability. What she will do. If she grew adept enough she may be able to control Naruto-kun. Implantation of a Sharingan is not without detriments, as Kakashi-senpai has shown. Besides, I believe her motivations are quite obvious. As stated previously, she appears to be grooming Naruto-kun to be her lover. It was why she has shown such an intense interest in his development, but given her psychological profile, she would not tolerate being second to him. The problem with that is while Naruto is talented, he hasn't demonstrated anything that should make him rival her. Maybe in several years with just the quantity, but a large number of original ninjutsu wouldn't justify it as she has a large number of her own, Hiruzen argued back. Itachi debated whether he should violate this law or not. He believed the Sandame needed a clear picture so he wouldn't continue obsessing when it wasn't warranted. He had a great deal of respect for the man but could see that his need to see Orochimaru as the ultimate villain was leading him to ruin. Sandame-sama, do you know that Naruto-kun can use lava release? The question shocked Hiruzen. On top of everything else Naruto-kun had a Kekkai Genkai? No, I didn't know he had a bloodline. He doesn't, Itachi responded. Neither does he have the Hayaton Kekkai Genkai, but I have seen him perform jutsu of each with no lava streams nor snow around to manipulate. Those breakthroughs I was unwilling to report was that, Sandame-sama. Naruto-kun has found a way to use sub-elements without having a natural affinity for them. If I had not seen it with my own eyes or heard Orochimaru confirm Naruto's nature affinity didn't match with Yoton, I wouldn't have believed it. This is why Orochimaru could see him as a rival. He's broken through a barrier we've all taken as law. Everything inside the former Hokage wanted to reject Itachi's words. He'd tried to perform sub-elements himself, having peeked at his combination method. It was no small feat and very, very few shinobi could mimic it. That a mere boy could do what he'd failed to was almost unbelievable, except he knew Itachi to be impeccable and would not reveal this if he were not sure. It would make Itachi's argument make sense but Hiruzen was now more curious about how Naruto managed to hide it for so long. Surely someone knew and would have spread word. How did such an achievement go unreported? Was Naruto truly so isolated that no one could even spare a moment to see the remarkable? No, someone had to know and kept it under wraps. The Sandame recalled the mission debrief when Teams 7 and 8 returned from the land of snow. Kakashi and Kurenai had hidden it well, but they were trying not to reveal something and that Kakashi didn't allow his students to be there. As if he was concerned one of them would overshare. Kakashi used to be one of his most trusted agents. Had he alienated the man to this point? He cut off that train of thought. This was no time to indulge in guilt. He needed to think as this added a new wrinkle. Even if Itachi was right, and Orochimaru's goals didn't extend beyond her interest in Naruto-kun, it would still drive her to become more powerful if she managed to match his progress. At least now he could give Kabuto some direction in terms of what to look for, what to report on. Thank you, Itachi-kun, for everything. As Tsunade is the Hokage now, this will be your last assignment for me and as always, you maintained your enviable level of excellence. Please continue to do the Leaf proud, my boy. Thank you, Sandame-sama, Itachi said before disappearing in a shunshin. Naruto hurriedly entered the academy building, Majila hot on his heels. Finalizing his project took a bit longer than he thought as he'd wanted to catch the core before class. He hoped Irika wouldn't mind too much, but he couldn't just wait until their classes ended, he'd be gone by then. Naruto traveled through the halls, none of the surroundings making him the least bit nostalgic for his academy days. Once he arrived at the desired classroom, he knocked 3 times and waited for a reply. "Come in," Irika called out and was surprised to see Naruto standing there in his Chunin uniform. "Can I help you, Naruto?" "Hi, can I speak to Konohamaru, Udon, and Moegi briefly?" "Class is in session, it'll have to wait," Mizuki spat and watched as Naruto just finally acknowledged his presence before dismissing it entirely. The red-haired Uzumaki looked back at Irika and waited for his reply. The blow-off was noticed by both instructors and some of the students. "Normally, I'd agree, but if you are here it must be for a reason, so yes, they can step out, but please be quick." "Thank you, Irika," Naruto said as the trio made their way out to the hall. Naruto softly shut the door behind him as the tree waited in anticipation. "Hey guys, I'm sorry I had to pull you out of class for this, but I don't have a lot of time," Naruto started. "You going on an important mission, boss?" Konohamaru asked. "Yeah, you going to rescue another princess?" Moegi inquired. "Or overthrow a corrupt government?" Udon prodded. "Sorry, nothing like that. I'm going on a training trip for a few years and won't be back in the village until it's over." "What?" they yelled, causing Naruto and Majila to flinch at the volume. "Oh," the panther said as she rubbed her ears, and Naruto had to agree. "Not so loud, dummies. Now, as I said, I'll be out of the village, so I wanted to leave you all something to help you train." Naruto revealed 3 mid-sized scrolls. A black, a blue, and a red, giving them respectively to Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon. "In those scrolls are some training guides that I tailored for the each of you. Now, you guys don't have to follow them to the letter, they really are just to help, so if your interests change, then pursue them. But I think you'll each find some useful information in there." "Thanks, boss," Konohamaru said as he went in for a hug, his 2 friends joining him. Naruto hugged his little friends and assured them he'd be back around their graduation and was excited to see their progress. The core each hugged Majila and then returned to class. Summoner and summons both took off, they had several people to see today and needed to make up for lost time. Once exiting the academy, they traveled via Shunshin to their next destination and saw Shikamaru and Shino looking at them expectantly. "You're late," Shikamaru observed. "Indeed. I deduce you lost track of time nerding out," Shino added. Naruto gained a tick mark at the Aburim's words. "I was not nerding out, and that's hardly a deduction, you just guessed, Tebeo." "But I am right," Shino pressed. "We don't have time for this, you troublesome pair," Shikamaru interrupted as he walked past his teammates. "You know, Shino, sometimes I think Shika doesn't love us. I, too, am met with a decided lack of love." "Do you think it's just us?" "Highly doubtful." "So, you could say he's, maybe, lost that loving feeling?" "Both of you need to shut up." "It may be gone, Shino said, ignoring Shikamaru. "I am warning the both of you. Now he's starting to criticize the little things we do. It makes me feel like crying, why?" "Because, baby, something beautiful is dying. I'll never go to karaoke with you two again." "But Shika, you were really good." "Who knew you had the voice of an angel?" Naruto complimented. "I deduced Tamari," said Shino, causing Shikamaru to now gain a tick mark. "It really was just a guess." "When are you going to show Tayuya your special talents, Shino?" If the question wasn't startling enough, that it came from Kurenai made it that much more so as the boys hadn't noticed her arrival. She laughed when she only heard a faint buzzing. Shikamaru soon joined in, savoring the reversal. Naruto was quiet, wondering if and when it would be his turn. Kurenai noticed Naruto's anticipatory body language and simply stroked his cheek while smiling at him. He blushed and turned away, likely bemoaning how unmanly such a thing was. The team sat down at their shared training grounds, the place they officially became a team. It was weird, being nostalgic over something that happened a year ago, but Kurenai couldn't help it. She hadn't truly known what to expect when she took this team on. Some part of her was concerned 3 adolescent boys wouldn't want a woman as their sensei or would be too welcoming of it for the wrong reasons. That hadn't been the case, and she was thankful for that. "We don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to say, I can't imagine having a better group of students. Each of you have made me quite proud in our short time together. I'll admit, I'm sad one of you will be leaving for so long. I know Jiraiya-sama is your godfather and unquestionably a powerful ninja, but I, selfishly, want more time for us to be a team. We'll always be a team, sensei." "Why? Our bonds are not so easily severed." "You're right, Shino. We didn't come together quickly nor easily, but you all managed to overcome obstacles and have the potential to be one of the best teams Konoha has ever produced. Shikamaru and Shino, I know I'll still be your captain, but I wanted to share my thoughts with all of you before Naruto departed. Shikamaru, your intellect is staggering, and I have no doubt you will one day surpass your father. But you are not just your intellect. You are more, and can be more. I'm glad you found the motivation to do more than simply see every angle and pick the path of least resistance. I know much of the world must bore you, but I'm glad you've seen fit to challenge yourself. Shikamaru simply nodded, not having anything to say in response. Shino, your clan is often isolated due to your allies and your logical manner. I'm elated you managed to open up with us and had faith we would not reject you. Seeing more and more of your personality come to the fore has been a treat, and I look forward to what other facets you reveal in the coming years. I hope others get to see it as well because you are quite an interesting young man. Shino had no outward reaction, but Kurenai heard a faint buzzing and knew what it meant. Now, my problem child dash. Hey. Distant, angry, resentful, guilt-ridden. You didn't want to be on a genin team, you thought it was an insult. And you weren't wrong. I'm sorry I didn't see through the Sandame's games, that he used us to further his cover-up. However, I am ultimately happy you were on this team. I fear if you hadn't been assigned to us, you would have grown to believe there was no one in Konoha you could trust. You would have fled and unjustifiably validated much of the bias against you. But you see it now, right? Even if you don't fully trust it yet. You're winning more and more of the village over. They are seeing Naruto Uzumaki for who you are and not what you hold. You fought and fought and fought, and now you're free of the Kyuubi's shadow. I have no doubt you'll grow under Jiraiya-sama's tutelage, just don't have so much fun you refuse to return home, okay? Naruto simply nodded at his sensei's remarks. Thankful Majila broke up the silence with pleads that Kurenai say something about her, as the unofficial fifth member of Team 8. Her pleading was so cute that even Shikamaru laughed, which was even rarer than Shino doing so. Kurenai swooped the cub up and rubbed her head, saying some very heartfelt words about how the team could not function without Majila's contributions. The panther looked absolutely smug as she soaked up the attention. All in all, it was a good final meeting for Team 8. Kiba hit the ground hard, a dull thud echoing throughout the training ground. Akamaru gave a disapproving bark, not liking how his partner was being treated. Sasuke dismissed it, simply waiting for Kiba to return to his feet. It was taking longer than it should. He'd hit the Inuzuka hard, but it wasn't that hard. Would you relax, you bastard, Kiba exclaimed from the ground, decidedly not getting up. Sasuke briefly wondered if he should kick him until he did. Ever since that mission with Team 8, you've been a real piece of work, Kiba continued to bark out. So? Weren't you embarrassed? Weren't you shamed? A team the same age as us fought to S-class ninja, and won with no permanent injuries. What the hell have we been doing, because it certainly isn't what they've been doing. Sasuke had a lot of pride, and it was hurt when Kakashi ordered them to stand down, but more than hurt pride. He was inspired. There was obviously a level he and his team could reach if they worked harder, smarter, better. That Naruto kid is a freak, it isn't a fair comparison. He was a genin like us, Sasuke observed. Yeah, and my clan thinks it's because the Sandame had it out for him for some reason. He was a genin in name only, even Kakashi-sensei would agree. All three members of Team 7 looked to their sensei reading away in a tree, not remotely concerned about what they were doing. But Naruto didn't fight them on his own, Kurenai-sensei trusted her whole team, Sakura observed. Shikamaru is a freaky genius, though. And Shino isn't far off from him. Add them onto the kid that can summon lava from the ground dash. Kiba-kun. The trees have ears so you shouldn't speak about things so breezily, any? Kakashi said in a light tone, but Kiba heard the threat. They'd all been ordered not to mention Naruto's lava release to anyone as a trump card becomes less impactful if everyone knows about it. Besides, one jutsu doesn't make you ready to fight an S-class ninja, Sasuke said. You need to train us better, Kakashi. As you are now, each of you could pass another Chunin exam with minimal problems. That's not good enough. Don't be so quick to put yourself in someone else's shadow, Sasuke-kun. The Uchiha bristled at that. I'm not, I just see what's possible. No, you don't. When you both entered the academy, by most metrics you have more talent for the shinobi arts than Naruto ever will, Kakashi relayed. But dash. Naruto, Kakashi interrupted Sasuke's retort, had to follow his own path, because he had to. If he'd been forced to follow convention, it would have stunted his potential in its infancy. The hawk sees no more potential in the shark as the shark does the hawk. Your path is different, and if you remain diligent, you will grow, Sasuke. Don't limit yourself making comparisons you don't understand. Kakashi dismissed his team for the day, letting his problem child think about his words. Sasuke took the scenic route back to his house, attempting to make sense of his exchange. He understood that people had differing talents, but Kakashi's words regarding Naruto simply made no sense. He would have struggled in the academy but was good enough to graduate early? It was a paradox. Your sensei is right, a disembodied voice said amongst the trees. Sasuke tensed as he hadn't noticed someone following him and still couldn't sense a presence around him. Who's there? Sasuke asked, quickly drawing a kunai and getting into a defensive stance, Sharingan activated. Someone very old enough to have seen the start of your clan. Old enough to have served it for generations. I only emerge when needed, and as the last of your clan, I am needed. Sasuke couldn't believe what he'd heard. There is no way someone could be that old. It was, frankly, impossible, but insulting a potential enemy you couldn't trace was foolish, so he decided to play along. If what you say is true, I have been the last of my clan for some time. Wrong. Excluding the traitor Itachi, there was another, but he perished. Who? Madara-sama. He managed to survive his fight against Hashirama, but lived in seclusion. He thought day and night about how he would save his clan, his people, but ran out of time as his age finally caught up with him. What do you mean, save us? The Senju found strength in bonds, and they passed that ideology down throughout Konoha. The Uchiha found strength in solitary trials, the individual pushing him or herself to the limit. Madara feared the Senju way was weakening the Uchiha, and Itachi proved him right. You are the most talented of your generation and yet are outclassed by a Hyuga and an Uzumaki, which is essentially a Senju as they were cousin clans. So, how do I become stronger? How do I reach my potential? Continue to gain all you can from your allies. I will be in contact, and eventually all will be revealed. Stay strong, Sasuke-sama. What's your name? You, my lord, may call me Zetsu. He arrived alone to her manor, letting Majila go back to the Uzumaki estate until it was time to leave. He could have simply sent her back to her land but knew she'd enjoy Karen and Tayuya spoiling one last time before the trip. It didn't surprise Naruto that Kabuto opened the door, the boy's false cheeriness on full display. He didn't know why he thought it fake, but he did and didn't trust Orochimaru's longtime subordinate. He never voiced his reservations as they weren't based on anything, but he always watched himself around the medic and never allowed the bespectacled shinobi to remain behind him. Kabuto wasted no time leading him to his former shusho and departed swiftly afterward, wishing Naruto safe travels. Naruto didn't believe he meant a word of it, but there was nothing to do for now. Well, what a welcome surprise, she said from behind her desk, working diligently, a smile adorning her face. And what brings my former student here? Naruto just looked at her, wondering what her angle was this time. She enjoyed her games and seemed to really enjoy making him the target of them. Normally, it was mildly embarrassing. Pubescent hormones and all that, but give his reason for being here, it'd only make it worse if he didn't stop her now. I had some things I needed to say before I left. Tebeo, Naruto reached into his holster and pulled out a green-lined scroll. I spent much of my time alone. Training helped me forget that feeling, to run from it. It helped me grow strong and give me something to be proud of. But I couldn't have done it without help. I don't know why you initially sent those scrolls to me, and whatever your motivations were, I don't care. Anyone else that could help me was too afraid of the old man to do so, but you risked exposure to do it. More than just furthering my training, they gave me a sense that someone cared. Someone noticed me and wanted to help, and that often meant more than the actual content of the material. And then you gave me the means to meet my mother, to find out about my past. Because of you, I have an actual family and a clan. You even trained me to survive against the Akatsuki, which I doubt I could have without your help. And again, I don't know why you did it, but I don't care. I'll always be grateful for what you've given me, and I don't know how to repay you, fully, but I hope this could be a start. Naruto placed the scroll on her desk. This is the full collection of my thoughts and chakra and its applications, my chakra theory. It isn't much, but I thought you might like to see the culmination of your support. After he finished his spiel, he really just wanted to turn and flee. He felt weird and anxious. It shouldn't have been a big deal, except any serious jutsu creator has their own theories for why things work. The insights built up over the years, it's more than a look into how they view chakra, but often how they view the world. Often operating more philosophy than science, so he was sharing a very important part of himself. Even those who take students rarely share the entirety of their collected knowledge, only guiding them. Orochimaru understood the significance of the gesture, maybe even more than Naruto did himself. Her maelstrom never stopped surprising her, and in a rare departure, she wouldn't make a joke of it or somehow dampen the emotion. She swiftly, gracefully stood up and rounded her desk until she was beside Naruto, gently rubbing his whiskered cheek. "Thank you, Naruto," she said softly, and the boy just nodded. She soon pulled her hand away, both briefly missing the contact. "You know, after 3 years I'll expect you to have grown significantly in skill." "I know, dash. And hopefully in stature," she said and watched the brief flash of annoyance enter his eyes. "Seriously, Naruto, I wish to challenge you upon your return. I promise you, I won't have stagnated in your absence." Naruto smiled, looking at his former master with absolute confidence. "That's fine. I'm going to win regardless." "Oh, not just impress me, but win outright?" Sounds like a statement begging for a wager. "I'm so confident we don't even need to set the terms." "A blind bet? Meaning I can demand you do anything I want if you should lose?" "Some would call that foolish." "Maybe, but I trust you. Besides, I'm not going to lose, Tebeo." "Kukuku, I look forward to it," Orochimaru said. Soon she heard an alert, someone was at the door. She knew who it was and cursed the lummox's timing. She gestured for Naruto to follow her, and they headed for the door. Upon arrival, they were greeted by Jiraiya, carrying 2 knapsacks. "I figured you were here, Gaki." "Come on, we're burning daylight," Jiraiya said, before nodding at his fellow Sannin. Yeah, Naruto replied before turning to Orochimaru and giving her a quick hug. "I'll see you in 3 years, Shursho, so be ready to make good on our bet." "Kukuku, and you make sure to do the same." She watched as godfather and godson departed into the village and then parts unknown. Once cleared, Orochimaru made her way back to her study, heading for the bookcase directly behind her desk. She pulled out a book, The Way of Tea, and activated a seal within it, opening a door to a secret passageway. Orochimaru entered the hall, the door closing behind her and the hall lights activating as she approached. She soon reached a hatch and descended down to a subbasement known only to her. As she reached the bottom, now standing in her most secret lab, she watched as the once dark room light up. All the standards for a lab were present, but the most important additions were the white zetsu suspended in larger, glass chambers preserved by a liquid concoction. 2 Sharingan eyes were stored for later use. Lastly, on a metal table, his one remaining arm and both legs strapped to it laid Madara, or who, thanks to a blood test run by Karen she knew to be Obito Uchiha, laid helpless. His chakra sealed, as this was not the time for hubris. She climbed on top of the man, sinister smile gracing her face. She could have simply killed him, but there was something about him she found fascinating. He was a causal chain in leading Naruto to her. Under Minato and Kushina's care, he'd have been a different person, a less interesting person most likely. She leant down, her forearms placed on his chest, propping her up and forcing him to carry her weight. He gave a grunt, the only sign he was awake and alert. "I'm curious, Obito-kun," she paused and watched his reaction, and the grimace let her know he wasn't pleased to be called by his name. "Was making a deal with me really so awful? Was giving me what I want so distasteful you couldn't even consider it? I wonder if it is a flaw of your gender, you gain great power and dismiss any woman in your path." Pain did that, and Konan-chan slit his throat. "You did it and are now at my tender mercies." "Why? I really want to know." "No deal made would have been respected. If you didn't come for me, that boy would have with your help." "Kukuku, fair enough. I was never going to let you extract the Kyuubi from Naruto-kun, but your outright refusal hastened your downfall. My delay in killing you did that. So, why'd you do it? Why kill your sensei?" "It doesn't matter. Just kill me. Don't be in such a rush, Obito-kun. Your end will come soon enough, but only after my curiosity has been satisfied." Hours pass as day turns to night. In a remote clearing inside the land of fire, Naruto and Jiraiya lay around a fire. The Uzumaki was winding down after a long day of goodbyes. Tsunade Abakan, Shizu Nichin, and Hinata were all there to see them off, Hinata even giving him a letter to read sometime in the future. Jiraiya and he hadn't talked much as they traveled, choosing to move speedily for their first day of travel. Jiraiya looked deep in thought, finalizing what he wanted to tell his godson. They had a lot to accomplish during their training trip, not only making Naruto stronger. He wanted to develop a real relationship with Naruto, to be a fraction as close to him as he was to Minato. He wanted to do a lot, to show the young man the world free from violence and betrayal. He couldn't, however, ignore that Naruto was potentially in danger, so he had to start there. "Naruto?" "Yeah, pervy sage?" "First, stop calling me that. At least don't do it around any pretty women." I can agree to that. So, what's up? Well, kid, I've got some bad news. The Kazekage planned to use information about you to blackmail Konoha into a better alliance agreement. When he was killed, that information was sent to the other three major nations. Nothing is happening now, but we are in a state of Cold War while we see what Kumo and IWA do. He watched as Naruto slumped. It's always something, isn't it? People hate and fear your dad, he was too good at what he did. There's too much hatred in this world in general. I've long desired to do something about it but have come up short. Maybe you can figure it out if I fail. Sure, not like that's a big ask or anything, Naruto said, rolling his eyes. It is. More than becoming Hokage, this is the most ambitious goal a shinobi could have, but tell me, what else do you have to do? What is that supposed to mean? What are your goals, Naruto? To be the greatest ninjutsu inventor ever and the strongest shinobi in Konoha. Well, you've accomplished the first one and by the end of this trip, you'll be damn close to the second. Congrats. Is that it? Seems kind of hollow for someone like you. Can't be the leader of a place that hates you. They don't hate you, Naruto, not anymore. They are never going to throw you a parade or collectively apologize. It isn't fair, it isn't right, but that's the truth. Many have changed their minds, and they may even realize they were always wrong and feel guilty, but their acknowledgement of that fact won't be explicit. So what, no one glares at me anymore and we call it even. I know it's not perfect, dash. It's a lot more than less than perfect. What if I don't agree? You say they won't acknowledge they're wrong, what if they didn't have a choice? So, you'll terrorize people weaker than you? I thought you were better than that. They sure as shit didn't mind terrorizing me when I was weaker than them. And you don't know a fucking thing about me. You could have, but you let some old man convince you to betray your word and abandon me, so don't act like you have a read on my character. That sounds like revenge, Naruto. No, that's justice. They should be punished for mistreating a child. They should be forced to face what they did and own it, just like I have to own it. I don't get to pretend my childhood wasn't what it was. But you could be better. Yeah, the old man used to preach that crap while he was lying to my face every day. Imagine how convincing it is from the man that left me alone. Do you hate me for not being there? Jiraiya asked, really needing to know, and watched Naruto shrug. Just because you cared about my father means you give a shit about me. I'm guessing you didn't think being a godfather would amount to much, so when the worst happened, it was just easier to obey the old man. You did your thing, I did mine. I don't hate you, because I didn't even know you existed, but I am pissed. Why? Are you going to tell me I shouldn't be? No. This is good, we need to clear the air. You're right, I wasn't there, and I didn't think being a godfather would require much. Listening to Sensei, contrary to your belief, wasn't easy in the slightest. I was the failure of my team, Naruto. I was a screw-up, try hard. A late bloomer surrounded by geniuses, and because my talents emerged late, our roles were set by the time I started matching Orochi and Tsunade. I was desperate for Sensei's approval, and even at this stage of my life, I still reflexively seek it. It's shameful I allowed that to override what I promised Minato and owed you, but never think it was easy, or I simply didn't care. As for the villagers, I know it may feel unsatisfying to simply forgive them. Like they simply get away with it, but they weren't completely at fault. Wait. Jiraiya said, seeing Naruto was about to interject. They are ultimately responsible for their behavior. From my understanding, the Kyuubi attack was terrible beyond imagination, a widespread trauma with no outlet until your status was revealed. I place the blame for that on Sensei. He should have been a more forceful leader, he should have been the beacon of hope to see them through. Instead, he played the kind grandfather when he was capable of more. They suffered from a lack of leadership, from trauma and ignorance, and a lack of character. They couldn't endure and had no one to truly show them the way. That's what a Hokage is, a symbol of the village's best self. An example of what they could be. One reason Orochi couldn't be Hokage, regardless of her history with Sensei, is that she didn't inspire people. You can. You can show them grace, Naruto. You can show them what it is to endure and come out better, stronger, smarter for it. I'm only asking you to show the villagers the same Naruto that the people of Ishval, Wave, and Snow got to meet. That Naruto is something special. What if I can't? Part of the reason for our training trip is to give you time away to come to terms with everything, to find peace within yourself. You still see them as an extension of Sensei. How could you know that? I've spoken to Kurenai and Orochimaru. I've kept track of your career, Naruto. I can't make any promises. Besides, why is it so important I forgive them anyway? Because Naruto, I believe the only people that can truly change the cycle of hatred are those strong enough to stand against the logic of this world. Someone like you.